When I first played Pokemon Ruby, I fell in love with Trico. It's such a cool design, and it felt so fresh and different from anything that had come before it in Generations 1 and 2. I liked it so much that I basically soloed the first half of the game exclusively using it and Leaf Blade. Leaf Blade is really good. So it only seems fitting that I start off the new year and the beginning of my Hoenn series with a Sceptile video. My goal is simple here. Using only the Sceptile evolutionary line, I want to figure out how to beat the game in the shortest amount of time with the least number of resets. Here are the rules I'll be following. I've also left them in the description so that you can reference them later. Over the past year of making these videos, one thing has been creatively eating away at me, especially with the solo videos, and that's the fact that I usually only play through the game once. I have no idea if the result is repeatable, maybe I just got really good luck, and I also don't know if there's a better strategy available. Sometimes I look back on my older videos, like this one, and I wonder if I had taken more time to think, experiment, and test, if maybe the video would look very different. Maybe it'd be something I'd still feel proud of. Since I'm learning a new generation, I've decided to implement a new methodology in at least the next 3 videos I release featuring Hoenn. So here's how it's going to work. The video will have 2 major sections. First, I'll test the Pokemon at each stage of the playthrough and ensure that my strategy is consistent. Second, I'll create a plan for a playthrough through the game using the test results that I've just collected, and then I'll execute it to the best of my ability. Believe me, there's going to be some mistakes. I'm not always very consistent when I play these games. One quick thing before I get started. I want to say that it's refreshing playing Generation 3 after so much Gen 1 and 2. However, while the graphics are a step up, I really wish they just made Sharpedo the default surfing Pokemon to make all these water regions a little bit more enjoyable. I'll have to wait until I get to Generation 7 to enjoy this goodness. But you don't have to wait, because you can surf on a shark today with Surfshark VPN, the sponsor of this video. As the channel has grown, I've started to do more business online, and so security has become very important for me. Surfshark keeps me protected by encrypting all my internet traffic so that Team Rocket isn't going to get a hold of any of my precious Pokemon video data. Beyond internet security, Surfshark lets you unblock region-restricted content on streaming platforms by changing your virtual location, and there's no device limit, which is a huge selling feature for me. I have so many devices, and I'm worried that my girlfriend thinks that I have a problem. Anyways, get Surfshark VPN at the link in the description and use the promo code THOUGHTS for 83% off and 3 extra months for free. Thanks Surfshark for sponsoring this video, I really appreciate it. Now let's see how the Trico line does. Part 1. The test. You'll notice that I'm tracking real time as well as resets here on the overlay. Take these with a grain of salt, please. I'm providing the real time here only because I think it might be interesting for all of you to see how long this test takes me. Now, here's how I'm going to handle resets in this test portion of the video. For every prominent fight, like this fight against May, I'll make a save state at the start of the fight, and if I win, I'll go back to the save state and I'll try again. I want to know that each major fight is consistent, so I'll repeat it over and over until I'm satisfied with the results. I don't have a rule for how many times I need to win in a row, but generally about 5 times is what I'm comfortable with. The resets counter will only increment when I decide to change my strategy. That'll be when I reset the cartridge and go back to the save state that I took before I started the fight. So it will essentially count the number of times that I fail the test and need to reevaluate my strategy. Because speed and optimization are the goals today, I'll be using a perfect Sceptile. I set this up using a save editor called PKX Delta. There's a link to it in the description in case you're interested in playing this sort of challenge yourself. Sceptile's ability is also Overgrow, and quite frankly, I just completely forgot about it for the rest of this video, so yeah, I'm not going to mention it anymore, and that's why. For stats, the Trico line are fast special attackers with a bit of special defense and low physical defense and HP. Its attack stat is sort of just meh, and unfortunately this really messed this Pokemon up in later generations when Leaf Blade became a physical move. However, in Generation 3 we're still pre-physical special split, so Leaf Blade is going to leverage our incredible special attack. Now, we should discuss natures and my approach to them in these videos. I'll be picking a beneficial nature because my goal is completing the game as fast as possible. Natures raise one stat by 10% and lower another stat by 10%. Normally in Generation 3, a modest nature makes sense for Sceptile. It's raising its special attack and lowering its attack. It stacks up very well. With 120 speed, only 9 Pokemon outspeed Sceptile, and of those Pokemon, only Swellow and Ninjask are Pokemon that commonly show up. So Sceptile doesn't really need help in its speed. It might even be able to get away with a nature that lowers its speed. Because I'm thinking I want to preserve its attack stat for access to coverage moves like Earthquake, Brick Break, Rock Tomb, and Aerial Ace. Another thing going for Sceptile and its speed stat is the fact that the AI Pokemon don't actually have any EVs, but I'm going to collect EVs throughout the playthrough, and so my speed stat is just going to be boosted from what it ordinarily would be. So for this playthrough I'm actually choosing a Quiet Sceptile. That's a nature that raises its special attack and lowers its speed. I considered lowering my defense or special defense, but I don't think this is a good option, especially because I'm shooting for consistency in all of my fights. Every little bit of defense that I can get is useful. Also, my experience with all these challenges really proves to me that when I have to reset, I end up slowing myself down significantly. I arrive at Roxanne at level 15, and I haven't completed the route north of the gym yet, so if this fight isn't consistent, I'll just go level up there and evolve into Grovyle. The Geodudes are both really easy. I knock them out in one hit with Absorb, and then Nosepass gets really annoying. Like, more annoying than just like looking at its design. I hate this thing. Absorb doesn't do much damage, Rock Tomb does decent damage to me, and Roxanne has potions, so Nosepass just keeps holding on. It also has an Oranberry, making things worse. I didn't actually end up losing any fights here, starting with a level 15 Trico. I took 5 victories with great ease, and I wasn't even holding an Oranberry. For my playthrough, I'll add one in to add just a little bit of consistency. I also think that this means that Roxanne's better to complete before doing the route above the gym, just because if I did the route before the gym, I'd have to head back there after the gym anyways, and then complete the plot elements there. So that's 2 trips versus 1. South of Rustboro City, there's an optional fight against May, and I'm going to do it just for the experience. I need as many levels as possible for Brawly. This fight I end up losing because Torchic is dealing significant damage with Ember. However, I think that there might be a way to make this more consistent right away, and the answer is Rock Tomb. But I should mention now that Rock Tomb has terrible accuracy, and in the first 2 fights I miss, and the final fight I miss, and then Ember burns me. So that's unlikely to happen, but I think I do need more levels for Brawly anyways. I've neglected some trainers north of the gym, so I'll face them now for maximum trainer experience, and see if that allows me to beat May. Facing these 2 remaining trainers allows me to level up to level 19. I realized during the last fight that I can absorb the Lotad and regain lost health, so I've got full health for Torchic now, and this allows me to win 5 times in a row. But there is still a possibility of losing here since I'm relying on Rock Tomb, and again, if it doesn't have a 90% accuracy, it's 50% accurate. Brawly's next. I attempted the level that I arrive on the island at without fighting any of the trainers in the gym. But yeah, Machop is really good, so this is why I've been training so much. The obvious choice is to defeat all of the trainers in the gym to level up, and after that I'm level 21. This fight is getting closer with Brawly. I get to the Makuhita, but I just can't knock it out because it keeps getting super potions. So this is how I felt as a kid. I was just stuck on the island trying to defeat Brawly, not knowing how to navigate the cave. So yeah, the solution here today is to deliver the letter to Steven first. In the cave, I tried to catch an Abra to use Flash, but I need Brawly's badge to use it, so I can't even get through the cave with that. However, spending time wandering around the cave isn't actually that bad, because I can train in here, and that's really my only option unless I want to head back to the mainland. While training, I learned Screech in the place of Pursuit. I kept Absorb because it allows me to heal, Rock Tomb, it's a TM move and it's going to be useful later on, and Quick Attack is going to be my go-to move after using Screech. So with Screech on my side, I attempt Brawly again. I use Screech first turn against Machop, then I accidentally select Absorb on the second turn. Like, oops, I know that it lowers its defense and Absorb is definitely a special move. But after that, once I start using Quick Attacks, it only takes 2 turns for me to knock the Machop out. I'm moving on to the Meta type. Quick Attack does decent damage to it, and I'm able to knock it out in 3 turns. Well, I would, but Brawly uses a Super Potion. It's probably better that he's using them here instead of on the Makuhita, because that's the Pokemon that I'm really scared of. I use Screech first turn, lowering its defense, and then it hits me with Vital Throw, triggering my Oranberry and allowing Grovyle to heal a little bit. I hit it with Quick Attack for a lot of damage, but this triggers his Citrus Berry and it recovers health. This really doesn't feel good. I switch into Absorb for some health recovery, and over the next couple turns I actually managed to knock the Makuhita out. So I guess I've done it. That's 1 victory. Let's see if this is a repeatable result. And then in the second fight I get so unlucky. I miss Screech not once, not twice, but 3 times before I finally connect, and by that time Machop has set up a lot. I do manage to take it out, and then I move on to the Meta type. It knows Focus Punch, and it just tries to use it over and over and over again, so I spam Absorb and heal up here for free. Makuhita's last, and this time it sets up Bulk Up on turn 1. Now I'm not healing fast enough against it, but I did use Screech turn 1. I did wonder in retrospect if here I could have just used Absorb on the Machop instead of using Screech, but that's okay. For now I'm moving on. The third rival fight against May is next, and this fight used to always get me when I was a kid. I was just wasn't watching the screen or something, distracted, ADHD, and then I'd run into her and be like, oh no, now I have to fight her. And yeah, she'd always beat me. Today this fight's actually pretty easy, but it's possible to lose. I'm not happy with the consistency, so I think that training up a bit makes sense, but not all the way to Leaf Blade, just a couple of levels. At this point in the test, I've started to skip many of the trainer battles, so it isn't hard to just backtrack a little bit and get some extra experience. And with Watson coming up next, I think that I need to be prepared. He's particularly scary because he has 4 Pokemon, and they just love to paralyze you. His Electrike and Manectric have Static, and then his Magneton has Thunder Wave. So for this fight, I'm choosing a Cherry Berry to heal the paralysis. The Voltorb and the Electrike aren't issues to manage, but things get really tough. Tough as steel, you could say, when Magneton comes out. I just don't have anything that can do good damage to it. After paralysis is established the second time, it does too much damage to me with Sonic Boom. So for this fight, I'm going to want Leaf Blade, which is just around the corner at level 29. It's going to be easy to get that level just leveling up within the gym on the trainers here anyways. With this 70 base power high critical hit ratio move, things feel so much better. Voltorb and Electrike are both one-hits. The only issue here is that Electrike can paralyze me with Static. I've got a berry for that though, but I really want it for Magneton. If I make it here without using the berry, then it'll use Thunder Wave on turn 1, I'll heal myself, and then it'll use Thunder Wave again. So that doesn't let me go into the rest of the fight without paralysis, but at least I knock the Magnemite out fairly consistently. Manectric follows, and the fight against it is slightly unpredictable because of my paralyzed status. Watson likes to set up Howl at least once before attacking, and that gives me some time to gamble with the paralysis status condition, and hopefully Leaf Blade connects. The increased critical hit ratio really comes through for me during these tests as well, but paralysis also made me lose one fight. So I won 5 times and I lost once. For Watson, I think this is an acceptable result for me. I'm going to gamble here a little bit because I don't want to waste a ton of time and overlevel. I do think that it would be incredibly bad luck if I had to reset more than once for this fight, with the results that I've been getting. Up next is Maxie, and I forgot my HM Mules again, so I have to spend some time catching them. Luckily this isn't the real deal playthrough though, it's just a test, so it's okay to waste time. Today we catch a female Kyle, by the way. Maxie's at the top of Mount Chimney, and he shouldn't be an issue. However, I haven't evolved into Sceptile before testing this fight against him. There were a bunch of spinning trainers that I wasted time trying to dodge on the previous routes as well. I think in my playthrough I should just fight them immediately, and that might let me level up a little bit faster and evolve for this fight. Maxie's easy to take 5 victories against. I think the biggest inconsistency here could be getting confused against the Zubat if Rock Tomb misses. Either way, I'm pretty happy with these results. Flannery is next, and I ensure that I level up so Grovyle evolves into Sceptile for this fight. I pick up my Super Repels, and then I take on the gym puzzle, and I still haven't memorized this one, so it's a bit awkward. Now that I've made it to the gym leader, I think that she's going to be tough. Let's find out. Sceptile can shred her Numel with a neutral Leaf Blade. The camera up that follows takes enough damage as well so that I can knock it out in 2 hits. Slugma is so weak that even a resisted Leaf Blade knocks it out, and then Torkoal's last. It tanks Rock Tomb like a boss, and then knocks me out with an Overheat. The next fight, this happens again. And then it happens again. So this is nowhere near consistent. The obvious move that I missed is Dig, which is a physical move. And right now I'm feeling really happy that I didn't go for a modest Sceptile. Torkoal's base 140 defense isn't something that I'm looking forward to going up against with my weaker offensive stat. This fight plays out much as it did before. Knock the Numel out and the Slugma with ease, 2-hit the Camerupt with either Dig or Leaf Blade. Honestly, I think that Leaf Blade's better, so it doesn't have time to set up Sunny Day. The Torkoal is where everything falls apart. It can use Attract to mess me up, and also Screech doesn't work like I wanted it to because the Torkoal is holding a White Herb. If its Overheat is boosted by the sun, it one-hits me, and Dig doesn't even do that much damage like I feared because it's a physical move. So Dig isn't required here. I realize now that I forgot the Miracle Seed just after Roxanne. I could use this to boost Sceptile's Grass-type moves and get a bit more damage, so for my playthrough I'll be picking that up before Brawly. That'll make him easier. Today though, it's not going to help against Flannery. She's still too strong, so the only answer I've got is to train up more. To do this, I'm going to knock out a bunch of Spinda because they give 1 special attack EV. This is going to boost Leaf Blade even more, and I think that after a few levels I'll be ready to 1-hit the Camerupt and 2-hit the Torkoal. As I was training here, I looked up Slugma as well, and it also gives 1 special attack EV, so I started to knock them out as well. The convenient thing about this spot is that I can just run over to the old lady's house and restore my PP whenever I want. At level 42, I'm ready to go back and try again. Like, please let this be enough. I haven't even defeated her once yet. She opens with Numel, I one-shot it with Leaf Blade, and then Camerupt comes out. It's also a 1-hit. Okay, that's really nice. Slugma comes out next, I one-hit it, and then Torkoal's out. Okay, please. Leaf Blade does around half damage, the Torkoal uses Body Slam, which paralyzes me, but because of my incredible speed, and after all, it's a turtle, I move first and I knock it out with my second Leaf Blade. Okay, so that's the first win against her. Let's test and make sure that this is consistent. On the second fight against her, when I get back to Torkoal, it uses Attract turn 1, and then my second Leaf Blade just doesn't quite knock it out. Like, it was so close. After that, things spiral out of control and I end up losing. So, I guess the answer is nope, this isn't consistent yet. So the dilemma that I face is, should I train up more and increase the level gap with the rest of the game, or do I just try to rely on luck for this one fight? So I'm going to try this fight 10 times in a row and see what my win-loss ratio is. Turns out that through just spamming Leaf Blade holding the Miracle Seed at level 42, Sceptile can defeat Flannery 9 times out of 10. So this is enough for me. The losses generally come about through a combination of Attract, Paralysis from Body Slam, and then a Sunny Day boosting Overheat. A messy and frustrating combo, and I'm really happy to be moving on from it. At this level, I think Norman's going to be very easy. The only way that I can see myself losing here is like maybe if slacking Citrus Berry heals it enough that it survives my second Leaf Blade, I fall asleep because it used Yawn, and then it damages me enough to knock me out while I snooze. Well, this really isn't an issue though because Leaf Blade's doing a lot of damage to the slacking. I take 5 easy victories. The next section of the game provides me so much easy training because trainers are so plentiful on this route. It's unfortunate that I had to do most of my grinding already. After taking care of Team Aqua and the Weather Institute, I get my chance to test the fight against May. This one also always got me as a kid because I was just damaged from the route and the Weather Institute. I always forgot that there's a bed in there that you can actually heal in. Yes, you can actually heal in this bed. But today this fight against her is so easy. I stomp her 5 times in a row and I'm moving on to Winona. But before I go to her, I spend some time grabbing some items, a rare candy and the Devon scope. After that, I deposit my Pokemon because there's a mandatory double battle in here, and Sceptile needs to do that without any help. Believe me, I wish that wasn't the case, because these two trainers are so annoying. Sand Attack from the Skarmory, and then the Tropius is just like hard to take out. I don't really have anything that's good against it. At least I managed to defeat both of them on my first attempt. I haven't had to reset actually on any random trainers in this test yet. Winona, though, is a tricky situation, so I'm pretty sure that I'm going to have to reset there. I choose a Citrus Berry for this fight because she doesn't have many status conditions. The only thing she can actually do is confuse me with Pelipper, but I can just one-hit it with Leaf Blade. The issue starts with Tropius, because it doesn't take much damage from Rock Tomb. It can do a bit of damage to me and soften me up slightly for the following Skarmory. And this Pokemon makes me want to rage. Like Skarmory is so annoying when you only have a Sceptile to deal with it. Oh my gosh. I hate it so much. Flying Steel with Sand Attack? Like, nope, this is just unfair. I do manage to eventually make it to the Altaria on my 3rd attempt, but I can't make it past it because my accuracy has been lowered. I distinctly remember this fight being hard when I was soloing the game with Sceptile as a kid. This was usually the first fight that I started to train a second team member for, just because of how much Sceptile struggled. I spent some time leveling up 2 more times and then I attempt her again. During this training, I thought of different moves that would help me here. Thunder Punch would be amazing, and believe me, I want that move so badly with Sceptile, but it's only accessible post-League, and I'd have to have 48 BP to buy it, so it's just not going to happen. Return doesn't help against Skarmory, but it will against Tropius, so I teach it to Sceptile in the place of Screech, and then I attempt again. The issue with this moveset is that Skarmory is just too bulky to knock out. Rock Tomb is not nearly accurate enough, and I lose 3 times in a row as a result. I reset and I teach Return in the place of Dig, preserving Screech to use against Skarmory. With only 1 Screech, I get it into 2-hit range, and that allows me to knock it out and move on to Altaria. It sets up Dragon Dance first turn, and that gives me 2 hits from Return. So I've done it, I've defeated her once, but can I do it 4 more times? On the 3rd fight, the Skarmory of course gets Sand Attack set up, I miss too many Rock Tombs, and then the Altaria knocks me out. I decided to see if I could win 3 more fights and get a result of 5 wins and 1 loss. Along the way, I actually get a critical hit against the Skarmory, and so I did an extra fight because of that. I just didn't want to win because of a lucky result. So the strategy here is really simple. Basically spam Return, use Leaf Blade on Pelipper, and then against Skarmory, use Screech into Rock Tomb. Sand Attack here is the worst possible thing that can occur, and so it is a bit inconsistent. However, on my last fight, Return knocks Altaria out, and I take a result of 6 wins and 1 loss. Remember, one of those wins was because of a critical hit. So that's a good enough result for me here, especially in a gym that Sceptile doesn't match up particularly well against. Maxie is next, and I wasn't worried. However, after Mightyena lowers my speed with Scary Face, and then Crobat comes out, my mind started to realize that this fight actually might be an issue. Rock Tomb isn't very accurate, but at least it manages the Crobat in 2 hits. The following Camerupt is a 2-hit as well. It just barely survives my first Leaf Blade. Over 5 fights, it turns out that this is actually consistent right now. What I learned is that Return is just better against the Crobat. It has more accuracy than Rock Tomb. And in the 5th and final fight against him, it's actually a really satisfying way to close out this test. I crit the Mightyena, crit the Crobat, and then for the first time, I one-hit the Camerupt with Leaf Blade. So it's time for the hardest fight in the game. And for it, I need to catch a Magikarp. In Emerald, Tate and Liza won't actually fight you unless you have 2 Pokemon in your party. Believe me, I tried. So I'll bring in a Magikarp as my only other team member so that Sceptile basically has to do everything itself. After how Butterfree did with Giga Drain here, I think that Sceptile's already set up for success. Let's see how it goes. Xatu and Claydol are first. Many of you said that Xatu has Early Bird, but it doesn't. It's got Synchronize, unless every other online resource I've found is wrong. Claydol is a ground type, so Leaf Blade manages it in a single hit. Xatu one-shots Magikarp, and then Solar Rock comes out. Leaf Blade takes this rock type out, and Xatu starts to set up Calm Mind, which is pretty worrying. It's a really great move. And Tate and Liza seem to realize this as well. Perhaps too much though, because Xatu just spams it as I knock the Lunaton out, and then I take the Xatu out, and yeah, it just kept spamming Calm Mind. You might ask, what happens when Xatu actually attacks Sceptile? Well, honestly, I don't know. All 5 fights went exactly like this. All 5. It just spammed Calm Mind and then fainted to return. So I guess it's nice after the Butterfree video that these 2 were really easy for Sceptile. I get to move on. And now it's time for some plot elements. Honestly, I'm no longer a fan of having legendary Pokemon as part of the plot. I think it's sort of become stale and it's like a Pokemon trope now. But when these games came out, it honestly felt so awesome. Like, this little cutscene is so cool and so impressive. After the plot's taken care of, Juan is next. And he's not very impressive. Just look at him. Like, his sprite, this like little chibi in the game, he looks like he's made out of Lego. I seriously feel like this sprite is not supposed to be in a Pokemon game, and it bothers me a lot. Anyways, I'm a grass type, he's a water type leader, like what do you expect? Kingdra is the most problematic because it normally survives Leaf Blade and then sets up Double Team, but then Juan just like heals it without doing any damage and gives you 2 more attempts to knock it out. Overall, probably the easiest gym leader yet. I feel like Red and Blue's Giovanni might actually be better than Juan as the 8th gym leader. And yeah, remember, Giovanni has guard specs. Victory Road is really cool in this generation, and it's a neat little challenge if you've never played through it before. I'm still learning it, but today with Abra as an HM Mule, I'm able to see where I'm going, making it significantly easier than when I played through with Butterfree. Before the league, I teach Sceptile Aerial Ace, and it's really going to help against Sydney's grass types. Soon, I'll ditch Rock Tomb for Earthquake as well. Don't worry. Sydney opens with Mightyena, triggering Intimidate, lowering my Sceptile's attack. Leaf Blade knocks it out in a single hit and Absol follows. It has pressure, so I'm losing twice the PP battling it. I prepare by giving Sceptile a PP max for its Leaf Blade though. I knock Absol out in a single hit and I move on to Shift Tree. This is where Intimidate matters, because I want to use Aerial Ace, but the tree is still a 2-hit. Even with Double Team, Aerial Ace finishes it off. That's consistent. The following Cacturne is also a 2-hit, and then Crawdaunt is a simple 1-hit with Leaf Blade. Obviously. Over the 5 fights, there was no variation on Mightyena, Absol, or Crawdaunt. They were all easy 1-hits. For the Shift Tree, there is some variation though. It primarily uses Double Team, but it can also use Swagger or Torment. Of these, Swagger is obviously the most dangerous, but it does speed the fight up if I start to land my hits with Aerial Ace. Cacturne's only changed based on what happens with the Shift Tree. If I get a Swagger boost, then I'm going to 1-hit it. So that's 5 easy wins for Sceptile. I'm moving on to Phoebe. Phoebe opens with Dusclops. The first one isn't an issue, but the second one is because it knows Ice Beam. It freezes me, Sceptile doesn't defrost, and I lose on my first fight. So being frozen by Ice Beam's a 10% chance event, and then not defrosting for that long wasn't great luck. I continue to battle her at this level, and I learned that with this Learn set, I can use Aerial Ace first turn against the first Dusclops, and then knock it out with Leaf Blade, preventing a potion. On the second Dusclops, I can just use 2 Leaf Blades and knock it out with ease. That means that it only gets to use Ice Beam once, minimizing the number of times that it will freeze me. After her first 2 Pokemon are taken care of, the fight's an easy sweep with Leaf Blade. Even if I get frozen, there is a chance that I defrost in time and I finish her team off, so while this isn't a perfect solution, I think it's good enough. I win 5 times and I only lose once. For Glacia, I forgot an important TM, Brick Break. A 75 base power fighting move would be excellent against the Glalie in place of Aerial Ace, but today I'll have to manage her with Leaf Blade, and that's okay because Ice doesn't resist grass type moves. Also, this got me thinking, since most of her Pokemon are water types, Wallace really doesn't make sense as the champion. Like, for this reason alone, it doesn't make sense for him to be the champion. I'm really confused as to why they updated this in Emerald. So this fight's really predictable. I one-hit all of the Walrein line Pokemon because, yeah, they're water types and they take super effective damage. Her first Glalie is a 2-hit and it uses Icy Wind on the first turn. This lowers my speed, but not enough for the second Glalie to move first, and then it usually just sets up Hail. This sequence of events played out in all 5 fights. The final fight, the game took pity on me though for putting myself through this repetitive slog and gave me a critical hit to finish everything off nice and smoothly. Drake is where I start to get a bit worried about Sceptile's chances. The TM for Dragonclaw was available after I got Waterfall, but I forgot to grab it. Salamence and Flygon know Flamethrower, and Altaria knows Aerial Ace. The Shelgon is simple to take out, but it does usually lower my speed with Rock Tomb. Flygon's a 2-hit with Leaf Blade, and that lets it use Flamethrower once. Altaria's next, and this is where I fall apart. It's in 3-hit range, and that gives it 2 turns for Dragon Dance or Aerial Ace. If I survive and make it to the Salamence, I don't have enough health remaining to win. I adjusted my moveset to give Sceptile more recovery by adding Giga Drain. Aerial Ace was useless, so I add Earthquake in its place for a higher power physical move. It's honestly not very helpful here against Drake though. With the Citrus Berry and Giga Drain, I'm able to now take the Altaria out, but I'm not able to get past the Salamence. It finishes me off in 2 hits. And it looks like it's a 4 or 5 hit range for return. This is going to be easier if I just black out and bring Dragonclaw with me. As predicted, the league is easy and consistent on my way back to Drake. So now I've leveled up and I have Dragonclaw. I think that I can do it now. In Generation 1, 2, and 3, Dragon moves are all special, and this is really good for Sceptile because Dragonclaw is going to leverage its incredible special attack stat. I sat here in disbelief as I fought Drake. 1 hit against Shelgon, 1 hit against Flygon. It's not a 1-hit for Altaria, but it almost gets the job done. It uses Dragon Dance, and Drake wants to heal it, so I get a free knockout anyways. Salamence is next, and it's a 1-hit. The Kingdra that follows does survive, but barely, so a fight that was very challenging is now made trivial with a simple moveset update. Over the 5 test fights that I do against him at this level with this moveset, Altaria sometimes uses Aerial Ace instead of Dragon Dance, and Salamence always gets 1 Flamethrower off. So there is potential for me to lose if things line up perfectly for Drake. That sequence of events would be Altaria uses Aerial Ace, and then Salamence gets a critical hit with Flamethrower. But that critical hit is a 1 in 16 chance, plus Salamence sometimes goes down to a single hit from Dragonclaw even when I don't get a critical hit. So I take 5 victories in a row, and I think that this fight's consistent enough. Let's move on to the champion. It's time for Wallace, and this should be an incredibly easy champion battle because he's a water type user. He opens with Wailord. My Leaf Blade connects and knocks it out in a single hit. My Loudon follows. This one gets hit by Leaf Blade, but it doesn't quite go down. That allows it to use Ice Beam. Luckily, it doesn't freeze me. It eats a Citrus Berry, and then I knock it out with Leaf Blade on the following turn. Tentacruel's next. I use Leaf Blade against it. It does just under half damage, and then it uses Sludge Bomb, taking me down to red health and poisoning me. Okay, that's really unfortunate. I use Giga Drain to try to heal because I know the poison's going to start chipping away at me, and luckily it knocks the Tentacruel out. Ludicolo's next, and I cannot even describe how hopeless this felt. I use Giga Drain against it, recover some health, and then it starts to set up Double Team. And it sets up Double Team a lot, and Giga Drain starts to miss. Then making matters worse, Wallace uses a Full Restore on it and heals it. And he does this twice. Because he's healing it so much, he's stalling me out, and I actually run out of PP for Giga Drain, which is really frustrating. I have to switch into Leaf Blade, I cross my fingers, and I get a critical hit and knock it out. So that was really lucky. The following Wish Cache takes 4 times damage, and I knock it out in a single hit, and I level up to level 69, so that's nice. Gyarados follows, I take poison damage, and I go down to 1 hit point, and then I knock it out. So this was probably the closest fight that I could have had with Wallace. It was actually hard. I'm really surprised by that. So after winning this first fight, I was feeling pretty good about Wallace. However, on the third fight, he dashes my hopes when Tentacruel knocks me out with a sludge bomb. So that's pretty embarrassing, losing to Wallace with a Sceptile. Oh well. The reason that I'm experiencing a lot of these struggles is that I can get poisoned. So I give Sceptile a Pecha Berry and teach it Earthquake in the place of Return. Without the Miracle Seed, Wailord's still a one-hit with Leaf Blade. Melodic was always going to be a two-hit, and instead of Ice Beam, this time it uses Toxic, and that uses up my Pecha Berry before I get to the Tentacruel. However, Earthquake to the rescue, and it knocks the Jellyfish out consistently in one hit. From there, the fight's easy. 2 Leaf Blades for the Ludicolo, just hope that Double Team doesn't make me miss. Giga Drain to heal on the Wish Cache if I'm damaged, and then 2 Leaf Blades to finish the Gyarados off. I get 5 wins in a row with this strategy. So I've done it with Sceptile, I've beat Pokemon Emerald, and I've determined a good plan for the game, but there's still one fight left to test before we get into my playthrough. I'm only level 69, and Steven's Pokemon range from level 75 to level 78, so I'll need some rare candies to accomplish this task. My moveset matches up quite well against him though. The Pokemon that I don't have any good solutions for is Skarmory. Dragon Claw is awful against it. After leveling up, it isn't much better. Leaf Blade obviously doesn't work. I tried Brick Break, but Flying type makes it do neutral damage, and it's a physical move, so Skarmory's prepared with excellent defense. I went out and collected both Sunny Day and Solar Beam and tried these two moves together, but Skarmory just shrugs it off because grass moves deal 1/4 damage. Toxic can't poison the Skarmory, Return is resisted, Brick Break isn't doing much, so I think my only move left is Frustration. And by that, I mean the frustration of not being able to teach Sceptile Thunder Punch, because I can't defeat enough trainers in the battle frontier with just one Pokemon. Plus, earning 48 BP is going to take so long, and I think that just over-leveling is going to be a faster solution. Because Sceptile is so strong against the League, I can run through them over and over and gain levels quickly. I've also collected 13 rare candies at this point, so I use them all on Sceptile, and then I go up against Steven again. Pecha Berry is the best here to heal Toxic that the Skarmory likes to set up, and then I just need to cross my fingers that it doesn't set up again once I've used the berry. If that happens, the fight's over. And that's how my first fight goes at level 90. Ugh, okay, I'll try again. Turn 1 I use Leaf Blade, like a fool. Then I switch into Dragon Claw after that, and it only actually takes 3 more turns and I knock the Skarmory out. So that feels really good. Up next is Armaldo, and because I'm in green health, I choose Leaf Blade twice and knock it out over 2 turns. Then the Claydol comes out, and this is honestly a godsend because I can use Giga Drain here to deal massive damage to it and heal my health. Because of the ranges that I'm getting with Giga Drain, Steven actually uses 2 of his full restores on it before the Metagross comes out. Here, I can use Earthquake, it does super effective damage, deals more than half to it, which isn't great because then it heals itself with a Citrus Berry, and I don't knock it out, causing Steven to use another full restore to heal it. But the next 2 hits do enough, and I knock it out, so I'm moving on to Aggron. I hit it with Earthquake, but that doesn't quite take it out. It gets healed with a potion, but then Leaf Blade takes care of it on the next turn. Cradily is last. I can't believe that I made it here. I use Giga Drain to heal up a little bit, it does good damage, and then I use Leaf Blade and knock it out. So I beat Steven with a time of 5 hours, 6 minutes, and 32 seconds when I was doing this test. Again, this is just testing time, so I'm going to actually do my playthrough now to figure out what this would actually clock in as. In terms of testing time for game time, I got a time of 14 hours and 20 minutes. All this information that I collected doing these tests let me put together a plan that I think is going to be very consistent and quite fast for Sceptile. So here's the plan in case you're curious. Now let's find out what happens when I follow this plan. How much time will it save? Will the game time be lower or will it be higher? After all this planning, how many resets am I going to need to get through the game? Let's find out. Okay, here we go. This is how I start my playthrough. I select a Quiet Nature, I have maxed IVs again, I grab the potion, I buy items, potions, and heals so I don't get slowed down, and then I train to level 6 for the May fight to make it consistent and easy. I spam pound 4 times and it's an easy win. I go back to town, I grab some Pokeballs, and now I'm going to do some extra training. This prepares me for Roxanne as well as Brawly, and it gives me the opportunity to catch some HM Mules, which I didn't catch here before. So I grab Zigzagoon and I grab Wingull, and I name them after some of my patrons. With that out of the way, I'm off to face all the available trainers to level up. This is really for Brawly since Roxanne is possible at a lower level. One thing I realized while doing this playthrough is that double battles now occur because I've caught the HM mules already, and this is pretty annoying. In this case, I actually think that double battles are fine for these playthroughs because they actually hinder my progress. I'd really like it if Trico could knock out all the Pokemon itself so that it gets all of the experience, but in this case it's getting distributed between the Sceptile and one of my HM mules, and that's really inconvenient, especially with Brawly coming up. The result of this is that I haven't evolved into Grovyle by the time I reach Roxanne, despite doing extra training. If I had evolved, this fight against her would be significantly faster, but because I haven't evolved, it takes time to knock the nose pass out. Since I just mentioned this big setback, I'm gonna mention that I also remembered my Oranberry this time though, so yay, that's a win. Because I caught a Zigzagoon earlier on, I'm now able to cut down these trees and fight 4 additional trainers for experience. Hopefully this makes up for some of the double battles earlier. Also, there's Chesto Berries back here, and I didn't have any of those in my last test, so it's nice to have them now. On the way back through Petalbug Woods, I do remember the Miracle Seed. On Dewford Island, I pick up the Old Rod, catch a Magikarp, and put it on the second slot of my party. His job now is to splash during all of the double battles and soak up EXP from Grovyle. In the gym, I forgot once again to deposit my Pokemon, so I got into a double battle, spreading out the experience, which is really frustrating. Here, I send in Wingull, and I actually attack Grovyle with it, so it didn't impact the fight in a meaningful way. I almost lost and incurred a reset here, which would have been extremely frustrating. The result of the double battles, though, is that I need to train a bit more before taking Brawly on. I level up in the cave, learn Screech, and now I'm ready to do it. Machop is first. I use Screech, it Karate Chops, I Quick Attack, and it uses Bulk Up. But my priority move knocks it out before it gets to utilize its stat boosts. Against Meditite, I realize the advantage of Miracle Seed. Now it forces Brawly to heal with his super potions here, and that's very advantageous because he isn't healing his Makuhita. It's really the only thing I'm worried about, especially because it knows Reversal. I'm doing around 1/3 damage to it, but its Citrus Berry messes up my range. Makuhita gets a big crit with Vital Throw, taking Grovyle down to 6 hit points. But it's slightly too late for him. I knock him out with Absorb and earn myself the second badge. The next phase of the game features 3 tough battles: May, Watson, and Flannery. I want level 42 for Flannery, so I'm going to fight almost every trainer that's available. To the west, I realize that there's additional trainers accessible now because I have Cut. Because of the extra training, I'm at level 28 for the May fight, which is higher than I was before, so I'm going to make it through this one. I continue training on the remainder of the route in preparation for Watson. After that, Wally's easy, and then I defeat all the trainers in the gym for additional experience. And then it's Watson time. So remember how this played out? I needed the Cherry Berry to avoid paralysis against Magneton on the first turn. However, in the first fight, all the bad luck aligns and Electrike's Statics paralyzes me before Magneton comes out. So I'm paralyzed for the rest of the fight now after first turn against the Magneton. I get a big critical hit taking it into red health, but then Watson heals it. I'm at a higher level than I was last time, and that means that my ranges with Leaf Blade do more damage, and this actually forces Watson to heal the Magneton when he didn't before. And that's really bad. Now, because of that, it uses Supersonic, confuses me, and it knocks me out. So that's my first reset of this playthrough. The second fight is so much smoother. Magneton is annoying, but I get to move on to the Manectric. Against it, Paralysis is a bit annoying, but I end up taking the victory. With Watson out of the way, I decided to train on the routes that are east and west of Mauville City, and now I'm recognizing in retrospect a mistake. I should have done this training before fighting Watson. That might have brought the Magneton into 2-hit range and allowed me to progress much easier. I do a bit of EV training on the Spinda and the Slugma, but not as much as I did before. It's just faster to knock out trainer Pokemon and get the 1.5 times experience yield. I arrive at Flannery's gym at level 41. I deposit all my HM mules, there's one double battle you can't avoid, and last time I won 9 out of 10 times against her, so I think that I'm going to be able to do it now that I'm at level 42 after fighting the trainers in her gym. Her first 3 Pokemon all should be one-hits with Leaf Blade. Numeliz, the following Camerupt is as well. Obviously Slugma goes down in a single hit, and now it's time for her Torkoal. Leaf Blade does excellent damage, taking it into low green health. Flannery uses Body Slam, and it paralyzes Sceptile. Okay, that's not good. But I'm facing off against a turtle, so even with my speed cut, I move first, Paralysis doesn't prevent Leaf Blade, and I knock the Torkoal out with a critical hit. Alright Leaf Blade, High critical hit ratio for the win. Now that I'm past Flannery, the next thing I need to start thinking about is Winona. For her, I'll need return, so I stop and pick it up before heading to Petalbug through Meteor Falls. I think that this is actually the first time that I've used this route to do this. Did any of you take this path? After that, Norman's a cakewalk again. Sorry, Dad, you're just not very good against Sceptile. On the way north, I have to face May. Here's where I made my first major mistake of the run. I taught Sceptile Dig in the place of Rock Tomb. My plan was specifically to use Rock Tomb against Skarmory on Winona's team, and now I don't have access to it. I used Leaf Blade because I was thinking of using a special move against a highly defensive Steel-type Pokemon, but obviously this is a bad move because of its typing. It has high defense, it's immune to Dig, resists Return, and resists Leaf Blade. So what I missed is that it only has a single resistance to Return, and I know Screech. I'm still not cluing in. Sceptile eats its Citrus Berry. Winona does a strange switch that allows me to knock Altaria out. Like, okay. And then Skarmory's back again. And now I clue into it. Screech first, and then Return. It does a lot of damage, bringing the flying airplane bird thing into red health. It forces Winona to use her second Hyper Potion, and because I'm outspeeding, I get 2 hits and knock the Skarmory out. So that fight would have been very easy if I just recognized that strategy from the start, but I'm glad that I was able to recognize it early enough and still take a victory without having a reset. I speed past some boring plot elements, and Tate and Liza are next. During their test, their Xatu just sat around and spammed Calm Mind while I knocked everything else. I can one-hit all their Pokemon with super effective Leaf Blades after all, and then Xatu confuses me in this fight. I hit myself, it uses Psychic. I literally laughed out loud here as I lost my first fight against them. I couldn't believe it. 5 fights in a row, they just didn't do this. So whatever. At least on the second fight, I'm able to take a victory. The fight against Maxie and Tabitha, where the player teams up with Steven at the Space Center, was actually surprisingly difficult on this playthrough. I mismanaged my attacks and accidentally didn't knock out one of the trainer's final Pokemon, so they sort of did a number on me, and if their AI was better, I think that I would have lost here. In Juan's gym, I choose to do some training. The density of trainers here makes it perfect for grinding, and with Steven just around the corner, I want as many levels as possible. And then Juan is next, and what do you expect? He's going to be easy, right? Right? So, unfortunately, wrong. Because Kingdra sets up double team, I start to miss, and then Juan starts to obsessively heal it, with either potions or by using rest. Whenever it gets a chance to move, it just keeps setting up double team, and I get so close to knocking it out so many times. Return takes it down to a sliver, then I continue to hit it, but it just keeps setting up, and then I miss, and Leaf Blade runs out of PP. So this is a mistake that I made. I really should have gone into this fight and thought about how to manage the Kingdra a little bit better. Maybe Screech first turn and then Return, but I didn't do that and it ends up knocking me out. So that's like probably the most embarrassing loss. I lost to Juan, the little Lego man. On the second fight, I replenish my PP, use Screech for the Kingdra, and I knock it out with ease. It's time for the league. This time for Sydney, I have Brick Break, but after Mighty Yenna's Intimidate, it isn't a good idea. Instead, just spam Leaf Blade and Aerial Ace. Phoebe's next, and in my tests against her, I went 5-1. But this game is determined to prove that the stuff in the late game is actually hard for Sceptile. The first Dusclops knows his Curse, and it never used it previously, but this time it does, and it leads to my first loss. In the second fight, I get frozen by Ice Beam, and that prevents me from attacking, and I go down. The third fight, I get confused, and that eventually leads to a loss. So this is the worst fight that I've encountered so far. It's just not predictable. I never would have guessed that, especially after my test results. On the fourth fight, I managed to knock the first and second Dusclops out free of status conditions, and from there I sweep with Leaf Blade. Glacia is easy with Leaf Blade and Brick Break, and then Drake is easy because this time I remembered Dragon Claw. For Wallace, I have a Pecha Berry. Leaf Blade one-hits Whale Lord, Melodic survives, but it doesn't use Toxic. Earthquake KOs the Tentacruel, 2 hits for Ludicolo, Giga Drain heals me at the Wishcash, and the final Gyarados is an easy 2-hit. I clock in with a time of 2 hours, 21 minutes, and 18 seconds, with a game time of 8 hours and 51 minutes. Before I analyze the results, let's take Steven on. In preparation for him, I trained briefly in Victory Road, and then I beat the Elite Four 2 times to level up to level 77. Previously, I obtained 13 rare candies, but this time I'm able to find one more for a total of 14. In my test, I didn't check Steven for consistency because I was honestly just happy to beat him once. So I'm really not sure how this is going to go even at level 91. Let's find out. The terrifying Skarmory is first, and it's the biggest obstacle for Sceptile. I'm holding a Pecha Berry in case it uses Toxic. I fail my type chart test though again, and I use Leaf Blade first turn. Like, I gotta stop doing that. The Skarmory uses Aerial Ace and does just over 1/3 damage. Dragon Claw from here. I get a massive critical hit, Skarmory uses Toxic, Sceptile eats its berry, curing itself, and then Steven heals it with a full restore. Giga Drain can't heal me now. All I can do is spam Dragon Claw and hope. And after 4 hits, Skarmory faints. My first fight against Steven, I make it past his Skarmory. Okay, so this is going really well. I'm under half health, so I use Giga Drain to heal on the Armaldo. The Claydol is next, and it's a godsend because it doesn't do much damage to me, and I can heal up fully for the Metagross. I use Earthquake, it does more than half damage, then Metagross uses Meteor Mash. I was kinda scared, but I survive, and I knock it out over the next 2 turns. Aggron would take 4 times damage from Earthquake, but its physical defense is great, so that's why I opt for a Grass-type move here. And Cradley's last, and it isn't a threat, so I did it. I beat Steven on my first fight against him. Sceptile finishes the game at level 91 with a real time of 2 hours, 46 minutes, and 4 seconds, 6 resets, and a game time of 10 hours and 22 minutes. In this chart that compares the results from my test and my playthrough, just realize that it isn't really possible to compare these metrics directly because my approaches were very different in each one of these playthroughs. In the test playthrough, the real time is bloated with all of the repeated fights. Also, I only counted resets when changing my strategy, so those aren't even equivalent. However, the last 2 metrics of level and game time are pretty fair to compare. I got 1 additional rare candy, which accounts for the higher level finish on the second playthrough. I'm also nearly 4 hours faster in in-game time. The reason is that in the first playthrough, I had to wander around looking for items and backtrack to obtain TMs that I forgot initially. And in the second playthrough, I just didn't have to do that because I could optimize my routing. There's one more thing that we need to consider when discussing these results. If your goal is not to beat Steven and all you want to do is beat the league, then you can just use all your rare candies at earlier points in the playthrough. This can dramatically speed up the results by eliminating the need to train on certain trainers. However, most of the rare candies are actually obtained after Flannery, so for Sceptile this doesn't really help as much as I would have liked it to. Plus, where's the fun in not beating Steven? So I'm really happy with these Sceptile results. What do you think? Did I miss something? I'd recommend this challenge if you're looking for a relaxing day on a tropical island spamming Leaf Blade to crush all of your enemies, because really that's what I did for the majority of this. If you play this challenge yourself with my rules, leave your results in the comments below. The next Generation 3 video is going to be Blaziken, so to stay tuned for that, you can like, subscribe, and ring the chime echo so YouTube will notify you when I release it. Thanks to Surfshark for sponsoring this video, and thanks to all my patrons for their support. If you made it this far, you're incredible. And now, it's bloopers time. If I survive and make it to Salamence, Salamance? If I survive and make it to Salamence, I'll just like, in the middle. Salamence. Like, just like, kind of go over it, like, maybe they won't notice. What is the pronunciation? I should just listen to it. Okay, phone. How do we pronounce? Is that how you say? Oh my gosh, I'm having it happen again. Pronounce? No, yeah, it's pronounce. It's not pronounce. I had this one before. Is it a blooper? I was like, pronounce? Is it pronounce? Again, my brain was like, it's pronounce. Bro, it's pronounce. No, you're not helping. Salamence. I think it's Salamence. Okay. Excellent. Thank you, A&W.
Man, you guys are really layering on the big episodes, huh? I guess it makes sense to cover Generation 3's 2 pseudo-legendaries
Come on.
in succession. That's right, this week it's Salamence, one of Pokemon's greatest stories.
Salamence. Got it. It's like a salamander mince. I adjusted my moveset here to give I was going to say Sceptile, but then Salamence came to my mind, and I was just like, no, try and blend them together. And then my brain's like, that's impossible. You can't. Septimance? I don't know.